and welcome to episode number 20 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam.
I'm Sahil.
And wow, it's crazy. 20 episodes.
Yeah, who would have thought we would have reached this many?
A true success story.
Yeah, true success story indeed.
Yeah. And speaking of success stories, on Monday, Sahil, you received the Wine Ambassador Trophy, I think that's what we're calling it now.
We are. It is magnificent. Got it in the mail. It is a big trophy. I'm actually staring at it right now. It's sitting on my bookshelf in my office. So every time I get bored of doing law school readings, I can look up and remember the good times when I won the championship, and the goal is for that trophy to sit there for a while. I fully expect to repeat. I'd rather have to go and get the trophy engraved again with 2021 Sahil than having to figure out how to ship it off to somebody else. So hopefully I get to keep possession of it for a while, but I will enjoy it for as long as I have it.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can do the handoffs in person in the future. But how big is it? I've never really gotten a scale of it.
Oh, man. I think it's at least a foot, maybe a little taller than a foot, or maybe I just don't know my measurements, but Eric might know a bit more, but it feels like a foot just looking at it. I'm just I thought about getting a ruler and measuring it earlier. I couldn't find a ruler, but
yeah, I mean, that's very exciting, I guess. And for those of you listening who may not have seen the chat. So Eric was picking out trophies this offseason for the league winner. And the one we decided upon, the temporary or the default nameplate on it said Wine Ambassador. And I first suggested, let's just keep that because that's really funny. But I figured, and at least I think it's funny, either way, to call it the Wine Ambassador Trophy and have that be kind of the name of it. And maybe have the winner drink wine out of the trophy. So I don't know. I like it, and it's a really great trophy, and hopefully I can take it from you in a few months.
Yeah, I hope not. That would, I really don't want to have to pay to ship it, so I'm cool with keeping it for a while.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, as for other league news, not a whole lot has happened. Monday morning, Eric made a couple small moves, dropping Wander Franco to pick up Franchy Cordero.
Yep.
Yeah, of course, that's demoting him to the prospect spot, but it does look funny. And I guess the fact that Eric is adding an outfielder at all is a little bit interesting. Franchy Cordero, I may have owned him.
I mean, I kind of get it for like the speed, but like why Franchy Cordero?
He's got a lot of raw power. I think he was a guy Jeff Sullivan loved to talk about, saying Franchy Cordero it's either the best exit velocity or maybe it's maximum exit velocity or something like that. But he hits the ball weirdly hard, and he's expecting a breakout any minute now. He was 2 years ago.
He's got a 70 raw power according to Fangraphs for what that's worth. So you might be right.
Yeah, he never really panned out, but he's still young, and the Red Sox. I don't know what handedness he is, but he can hit a lot of balls out of Fenway, I guess, if he gets the starting job.
Yeah, I mean, well, that outfield, I mean, amazing to think. It was like Betts, Benintendi, Martinez, and Jackie Bradley Jr. at one point, and now only JD's left, right? Yeah, and because Benintendi's gone, Betts is gone, Bradley's a free agent. I guess he might come back, but it's pretty barren.
Yeah, it is weird. I haven't fully come to terms with the fact that Benintendi was traded to the Royals. That's just really weird to think about.
It feels wrong.
Yeah.
Can we take a second, though, to acknowledge Benintendi was a second-round pick in the inaugural Dynasty League draft. And I was once offered Benintendi by Zane and Max in a deal for Christian Yelich. And they were like, well, Christian Yelich was offered or was drafted later than Benintendi. So Benintendi's a better player. This was before Yelich really turned it on in the second half of 2018. And Benintendi was still looking pretty solid at that point. I forget the other pieces involved. I think Michael Fulmer would have been going their way, and I would have been getting Ken Giles and Colin Moran. And ultimately, I was like, look, Yelich is my boy. I wrote that whole thing about him being the MVP before the season. So I was like, I'm keeping him. And I am damn glad I did not trade him Benintendi or trade them Yelich to get Benintendi.
God, I mean, going into the inaugural draft, Benintendi, he was coming off of his rookie season in 2017 when he was pretty good, not great. He was the former number one prospect, and then 2018 he had a good year.
Did he?
But he did, and he had a 366 on base. But then he's just kind of 2019 was, I mean, it wasn't even bad. He had an average season at the bat, 2 WAR, 101 WRC plus, and then 2020 was COVID weirdness. So I wonder. I feel like looking at his Fangraphs page that the Royals might have bought low on him in a good way, and maybe someone can do that from Alex and Zac as well.
Yeah, I think even a league average bat, though, if you're drafting him in the second round, is a pretty big disappointment. And I want to point out the player drafted before Benintendi was Cody Bellinger, won the NL MVP in 2019. The player drafted immediately after Benintendi was Freddie Freeman, won the MVP in 2020. So, yeah, that's not looking so hot for them right now. But despite that, EBO is still doing pretty damn good. So I can't argue with the results.
Right, that is very true.
Still waiting on that first championship now. 0 for 2 in finals matchups.
But they're 1 for 1 in Peraza Award wins.
They are building that sustainable winner any way they can.
Yeah. And I guess the only other tiny piece of news, it was another slower week, especially compared to what we were having in November and early December. But yeah, the only other piece of news was the Oakland Athletics signing Trevor Rosenthal to be in their bullpen. I guess that impacts a lot of us because, first of all, it impacts Zane and Max because they own Trevor Rosenthal. He now is signed on with a team, and he is projected to be the closer. So Fangraphs projects him to have 26 saves. So that certainly helps that he's landed in a spot that didn't really have a designated closer going in. And I guess it hurts me in the sense that I own Jake Diekman. I was maybe sort of expecting him to be the closer this year. I could have traded him away to people who would have thought he was the closer, but now it's looking like he won't be. So maybe he's a guy I could have traded away earlier. But on the other hand, maybe I need him a little more as a setup man since I've already got Amir Garrett closing and, of course, Liam Hendricks. So, yeah, just, I guess, another bullpen shakeup of which it'll probably change a few more times before the season begins.
Yeah, I actually think this might be a bigger hit for you than you think, just because, first off, he had an amazing 2020. I'm not going to deny that, but the numbers in the years prior weren't that great. I'll pull these up here. So he had a 0.42 ERA in 2020, obviously fantastic. But the 2 years before that were a 4.7 or 4.65 in 2019. That was in 76 games, and a 4.73 in 2018. That was in 71 games. And the FIPS were a little lower in both of those years, but like nothing that really indicates to me that he is this like above average great ratios pitcher. If he's not really getting saves. He also had a 179 BABIP last year that really drove down the ERA. Like his FIP was more than 2 runs higher. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe he ends up getting some saves, but I don't think he's anything special as a holds option, especially given how deep that bullpen is. So we'll see.
That's true. I mean, he really carried my team in 2020. Him and Hendricks, my God, they were my glue. But it's not like I'm super attached to him. I picked him up sometime in the middle of August for free and rode him. So I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to cutting him if, say, he loses his role, he gets moved to the 7th inning and isn't getting enough holds. I'm very bummed that I didn't trade him when I had the chance, but I still think he's got value.
Wait, didn't you and Zane talk about a Diekman for Rosenthal deal in like November?
We did. Yeah, we did.
That's really funny right now. I think one of you would have come up a clear winner there. in hindsight. But
Yeah, that I'm not sure why it fell through.
it
I
doesn't
may
help.
not have been fully sold on Rosenthal,
Yeah,
which I mean, which seems a little bit iffy considering I was fully sold on Diekman, and Rosenthal. I don't know. Rosenthal was just so bad in 2019.
yeah, but he's such a good track record. He's coming off surgery. He looks great now, but we'll see. It's relievers. They're so finicky. One of them could blow their arm out. One of them could have a bad start and get demoted from their role and just never work their way back.
Yeah, that's true. And like you said, the A's bullpen is really deep, so there's not a ton of, I guess, wiggle room for either of these guys.
No,
Because maybe JB Wendell can swoop in and become the closer, or Lou Trevino. I like him a lot.
I remember the year that this was in 2013. The Orioles, or sorry, 2014. The Orioles traded Jim Johnson to the A's. The A's expected him to be their closer. They gave him like $10 million in arbitration salary, and by the end of the first week, he had been removed from the closer's role and eventually DFA'd at the middle of the year. So the A's spent, I think, 11 million on Rosenthal with some of that money deferred. So who knows? Maybe the same thing happens.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
And yeah, are we ready to get into what we plan on talking about today?
Yes, I am very excited for this segment.
All right. So our main segment for today, in the Slack channel, I know for the past 2 weeks, there's been a lot of talk about the MLB.com's top 10 lists, both positionally and in the league. And what we have decided to do was we are each giving our own rankings of the top 10 players in baseball right now. So I'm very excited. I want to see where our lists differ, and I want to see, I guess, how similar they are to the regular list and how similar they are to all of you at home.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Just to clarify, this is a top 10 players overall list. This is not a fantasy list. This is basically just the same thing that MLB Network did. We are replicating that since everybody seems to be talking about it, and that list was garbage. So hopefully our lists are a little less garbage than that list.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, 1 and 2 couldn't be easier, in my opinion, but after that, it gets very iffy. And my 5 through 10 really is kind of a mess.
Yeah, I changed my mind on who 9 and 10 should be about like 10 times. I think I had an idea of who 8 of the 10 players should be, but didn't have them fully ranked in my head. And then 9 and 10, I was like debating between a group of players. So it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think. I'm looking forward to hearing what the league thinks. And you want to get started here?
Yeah, let's do it. So we flipped a coin to see who would go first, and it was decided that you will be announcing your number 10 first, Sahil.
Yes. All right. The number 10 player on my list is Anthony Rendon, third baseman for the Angels. So this was a very tough decision. I actually put Rendon back on the list at the last second, but I think just looking at him, he had a little rough start to 2020, but he really turned it on for the second half. So and somehow finished the 154 WRC plus, despite the early struggles, and he walked more than he struck out. In 2018, 2019, he was similarly fantastic, finished with an identical 154 WRC plus. In 2019, 140. In 2018, 141. In 2017. So he's just been consistently good. He plays a premium position at third base, and he's pretty solid defensively. And between 2018 and 2020, he has the 7th highest WRC plus in the league with a 148 WRC plus. So I think all around, just a fantastic player, plays a great position, great both offensively and defensively, and is worth every penny of the contract the Angels gave him.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Rendon a lot, and I wrote an article for the M-SABR website a couple years ago about how much I like him. So he's not flying under the radar anymore.
Definitely not.
But yeah, my number 10. This is we're gonna get controversial right off the bat, I think. And my number 10 player in baseball right now is the namesake of your team, Christian Yelich.
Okay.
So he had a very rough 2020. He hit 205. The on base was still good. He did walk a lot, but the strikeouts were up by 10 percentage points. Although the BABIP did drop substantially, so I think he is going to bounce back, which is why I still have him in my top 10. But yeah, he had a rough year, but before that, he was the MVP in 2018. He had an even higher WAR in 2019. He was even better, finishing second to Cody Bellinger. So yeah, he's one of the best players in the league, and it's amazing that he just kind of broke out in the middle of the first season of this league. You got really lucky there.
Yeah, I love me some Christian Yelich, and I'm not even going to say that's controversial because my number 9 player is Christian Yelich for many of the same reasons that you said, and I'll add a couple more. Between 2018 and 2020, Christian Yelich has the second highest WRC plus in the league. He has a 161 WRC plus. He has the 4th most home runs with 92. And he has the 10th most stolen bases, 56. He's in the top 15 in RBIs. He is 5th in runs. And while his defensive value is not that great, he still is able to bounce around between left, center, and right and play very solid. I think, obviously, a little bias here on my end as a big Christian Yelich fan, but like, you just look at the way that he uplifted that Brewers team. You know, they all of a sudden became a lot more relevant because Christian Yelich was there and have been able to make playoff appearances because of him. You know, he won the MVP in 2018. Arguably, I think in 2019, he could have won it had he not gotten hurt to end the season. And you saw how that really affected the Brewers down the stretch. And even in that wild card game, Trent Grisham might not be out there in right field if Christian Yelich is playing. So maybe to make a deeper run. But overall, I mean, I think Christian Yelich is still ranked number 9. I think this is an appropriate ranking. I think you could argue he could be a bit higher if you want to discount 2020 a bit more. But I feel pretty comfortable with ranking him here at number 10.
Yeah, certainly. We both have, I guess, pretty similar opinions on him.
Yeah.
My number 9. I will say this person was probably the hardest person to put on the list, figure out where they go, and that is another yellow champ. It's Freddie Freeman. Freeman is the reigning MVP from 2020, the short season, so it is a little difficult to figure out how much to take that into account, especially since he had a 366 BABIP. But this year, he walked more than he struck out. He had a 187 WRC plus. He had 13 homers in the shortened season. He led the league in WAR. His exit velocity went up by 2.5 miles an hour. So he's hitting the ball certainly better. Maybe it's that new dad strength. And it's not like he was a scrub before. He has consistently put up WRC pluses of 130 or better every year since his second season in the league. So he's been a great hitter for a long time. It finally clicked right now, I guess. Maybe he's on a Hall of Fame path. I don't know. He's got a career 139 WRC plus. This shortened season may have put him into that conversation. That'll be something to watch. But yeah, I feel confident saying Freddie Freeman is the 9th best hitter in baseball, or 9th best player in baseball.
I'm with you here. He's been consistently underrated for years. I think I'm glad that he's on the list, and he is 8th in WRC plus between 2018 and 2020. So I don't think that this is a low ranking at all. I'll go with my number 8 player here. It's another yellow champ. It's Fernando Tatis Jr. The talent's undeniable. I mean, I sat here on the podcast while we discussed the Tatis for Story deal and just discussed all of the comps for Tatis and what he's done at this age to all of these Hall of Famers. I just posted an article the other day in the chat that was like, of the 15 players who have like a certain level of offensive stats that Soto and Tatis have had, like 9 of them are in the Hall of Fame. 5 of them are on the Hall of Fame track, or shoeless Joe Jackson, who just got kicked out of baseball, and then only 1 had some migraine issues, so they're no longer in the league, or they left the league early. So he's special. The reason I can't rank him any higher is that he hasn't done this over a full season. He played 81 games his first season. and he played, I think, 59 games this year. So he's almost played a full season of baseball, but not quite. And despite that, 150 WRC plus in 2019, fantastic. 149 WRC plus in 2020, also fantastic. And I think this year was even more impressive because he was aided by a 410 batted in 2019. This year he had a very reasonable 306. He dropped the strikeout rate by 6%. The walk rate went up 2.5%. And 17 homers and 11 stolen bases in just 59 games is fantastic. So I think he's got a great future. He also plays a premium position at shortstop. So I think very solid future, very excited to see how he goes. And I totally expect him to rank higher on this list next year.
Yeah, I agree. He's a guy who will probably crack the top 5 next year, hopefully. And yeah, my number 8 is a yellow champ, but it's a different yellow champ. It's Garrett Cole.
Ooh.
Garrett Cole was also difficult to rank. He was obviously terrific in 2018 and 2019. Finished second in Cy Young in 2019. With ridiculous 13.82 Ks per 9. The FIP was tremendous. The ERA was tremendous. Then in 2020, he signed with the Yankees, and he was still really good, but the underlying numbers may be a little scary. The exit velocity went up almost 3 miles an hour. The strikeouts were still very good, but not quite as good. And then if you look at the exit velocity, it was in the 16th percentile. People were hitting the ball just really hard off of him. They were barreling it 9% of the time, which is higher than even any of his Pittsburgh years. So it's not to say that he had a bad season by any stretch of the imagination. He still had a 2.84 ERA. But there's a little bit of doubt creeping in. A lot of it may be, I guess, short season weirdness. Maybe it's the fact that he's no longer on the Astros, wink, wink. Or maybe it's even the Sonny Gray effect, pitching worse in New York because of something they're doing wrong. But either way, I mean, I've spent the last 2 minutes talking about how there are warning signs, but I'm still giving him the 8th best player in baseball right now. And even if I do expect him to maybe not be in the top 10 next year, he's a bona fide ace.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you say here. And that's actually a good segue to my number 7 player, who is also a yellow champ. It's Garrett Cole.
Wow.
I'm not going to deny that there's some warning signs potentially. Obviously 3.89 FIP was a lot higher than his 2.84 ERA, although the 3.38 xFIP was a little more reasonable. I think a lot of it is changing teams in the middle of a pandemic, a shortened season, maybe throwing off rhythm a bit. I don't see anything here that makes me look at him and be like, I think that he's all of a sudden just going to flop. Maybe with another strong season, somebody like a Shane Bieber overtakes him, but I personally think Garrett Cole is the second best pitcher in baseball right now overall, and I totally expect him to keep this up for the next few years. So,
yeah, he is a workhorse, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, moving on to my number 7.
Is it going to be another yellow champ?
It is. It's Fernando Tatis Jr., my 4th yellow champ in a row. 7, 8, 9, and 10 on my list are yellow champs. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Fernando Tatis Jr., I don't know what more there is to say about him after everything you said. He is he is a spark plug. He is just an exciting player to watch. He is super young, plays a premium position. He's got good defense. Doesn't he have good defense? Let me double check that.
He's like average-ish.
He's got decent defense. Not the best, but I believe in 2019 he was one of the worst throwers of all time among shortstops. But I think that seems to be, maybe he's fixed that a little bit. In 2 years, he's got a career 150 WRC plus. He homered 17 times in 59 games, which is just absurd. And he's an all-around great player. And he just signed a huge 14-year extension, so he's going to be in San Diego for a long time.
I got nothing else to add. The only thing I recommend is to tune back into the Tatis or Story Trade podcast and just listen to all of the stuff I said about Tatis, because it's insane. I think he's genuine. I genuinely think he's on trajectory for a Hall of Fame career.
I mean, it's tough to say that about anyone who's played less than one full season, but yeah, sure.
Yep. The numbers don't lie. Just check it out. But let's move on to the sixth player on my list. I am breaking our chain of yellow chairs. That was 7 straight yellow chairs we just talked about. That's nuts. But my number 6 player is Ronald Acuna Jr. 2019, Ronald Acuna Jr. posted 41 homers and 37 stolen bases. So he almost reached 40 and 40. Only 4 players in MLB history have had a 40-40 season. It's Jose Canseco, Barry Bonds, A-Rod, and Alfonso Soriano. And Acuna is doing this at the age of, like, how old is he now? He can't be older.
23?
He's 23. Oh, my God, he's younger than I am. So he, one of the questions I think that people had in 2018 and 2019 with him was like, the homer and stolen base numbers are great, but what about the OBP? The OBP actually jumped 40 points from 365 to 406 from 2019 to 2020, and he did this with a lower BABIP. His walk rate jumped 8.2%. Let's see if he can keep this up for a full season. I mean, he only played 46 games. He was a little banged up. The strikeout rate did go up with that. It's now sitting at 29.7%, but still 14 homers and 8 stolen bases. I honestly, I think that there's a pretty convincing argument that Tatis is above Acuna over the course of a full season, when you're just including the fact that Tatis plays a more premium position and just the talent that I think Tatis possesses. But I just think with Acuna having played 2.5-ish seasons now, I had to pick him over Tatis, and I feel very good ranking Acuna at number 6.
Our lists have been quite a bit more similar than I was expecting them to be. My number 6 is also Ronald Acuna. Yeah, for all the reasons you just said. He had the best hitting season of his career this year. He's still only 23. He played in just 46 games, but he hit 14 homers, even if the stolen bases were a little down from 2019 when he almost went 40-40. And yeah, the on-base percentage is terrific. Almost doubled his walk rate from 2019. And he is a true 5-tool player, especially since the defense was back above average this year. And I'm very excited to see him in 2021.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been pretty close to identical lists so far, although I guess there has to be one change in the top 5 because I had Rendon at number 10, and on your list, you didn't have Rendon yet, so maybe you have somebody else up there. So I'm curious to see who snuck into your top 5 that's out of my top 5. But number 5 on my list is Freddie Freeman. For a lot of the reasons that Cam listed below, I think that Freddie Freeman has just been ridiculously underrated throughout his career. I don't think he gets enough credit. He's maybe not the flashy name that you get with someone like Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Tatis, Soto, Acuna, but I mean, he's just been so consistently good, and he is a heart and soul of that Braves team. I mean, I don't have to explain how impressive his MVP season was this year, coming off of COVID, still played all 60 games. It was very nasty bout of COVID. And he had a 462 OBP, 187 WRC plus. He walked more than he struck out. The exit velocity was up. I mean, he's playing like a man on a mission. Like, I'm glad he finally got his first MVP because that was long overdue. And I mean, there's no reason in my mind that he can't repeat the type of season that he just put up. Maybe he's not going to have a 187 WRC plus, but I think he could easily have a 150, 160 WRC plus while locking down that first base job for the Braves. And I guess glad to get back on the Yellow Champ train here. That's now 4 Yellow Champs that I have discussed, and you have discussed 4 Yellow Champs as well. So if anybody needs proof that my fantasy team is pretty damn good, well, here it is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that you won the championship because you had 4 top 10 players, maybe 5. We'll see.
Well, I only had 3 of them at the time.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I just got to tease. So this team's even better now. Watch out. But yeah, curious to hear who your number 5 is.
Yeah, first of all, I'm looking to see who the Braves have in the minors at first base, and their top minor league listed first baseman is Pablo Sandoval.
Ooh.
So he's a young prospect looking to maybe take over for Freddie Freeman sometime in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Pablo Sandoval, what a guy.
So yeah, you were asking who the different guy will be to crack into my top 5. You were also wondering where Anthony Rendon would be since he was lower on your list. And I can answer both of those questions at the same time by saying Anthony Rendon is my number 5 player.
Wow.
Yeah, I've always been incredibly high on him. And just looking at combined WAR from 2019 to 2020, he is number 2 in all of baseball. So he racks up so much WAR. It's just amazing looking at him and seeing the guys that he's ahead of all the time. You've been able to do this for the past 3 or 4 years because he was flying under the radar. And even when he stopped being underrated, he's still underrated because people are just kind of like, oh, well, I know he's good, but I don't think he's that good. Kind of like I'm going to nerd out for a second, but in trivia nights at Sporkle, he reminds me of the city of Columbus, Ohio, in the sense that you're like, at first you're like surprised that it has so many people you're answering a question. And then the second time you hear about it, you're like, okay, so I know Columbus has a lot of people, but I still don't think has this many people. And you get it wrong every time because you're surprised that it has 800,000 people. So I guess that's a really roundabout way of saying that I'm always surprised no matter how many times I look at how good he is. And yeah, he's a phenomenal hitter. He did get off to a tiny bit of a bad start in 2020, but he brought it back around. And I don't know what else there is to say.
I'm just disappointed you said something positive about Ohio, especially Columbus of all places.
I wasn't saying it was a positive thing. I was saying it's a surprising thing for when we do trivia nights.
Yeah, fair. I mean, honestly, Rendon, I just added to my list at the last moment when I was doing research because I was like, I just did not realize just how good he has been. Because you're right, he flies under the radar. First under Harper, Strasburg, all those guys at the Nationals, and then now he's kind of playing second fiddle to Mike Trout. He is good. So I think 5 is an appropriate ranking for him. Maybe I'm more comfortable having him in the back half of the top 10 than the front half, but I can't argue with you placing him at number 5.
Yeah, I felt like being bold.
Let's jump to number 4 then. A former teammate of Anthony Rendon's and a current member of whatever your team is named now, Danger Boost. Almost forgot that for a second. It's Juan Soto, outfielder for the Nationals. Juan Soto had a 201 WRC plus this year, something insane like that. Yeah, 201. 490 OBP. He almost made it on base half the time. Last time we saw OVPs that high, we were talking about Barry Bonds. His walk rate this season was over 6% higher than the strikeout rate. That's nuts. And he had a 142 WRC plus in 2019, 146 WRC plus in 2018. As a rookie at the age of 20, that's fantastic. The only thing that holds him back a little bit in these rankings might be his defense, but the bat way overcomes his defense. He's only 22. He's done this over 2.5 full seasons now, similar to Acuna. I think the Soto, Acuna, Tatis debate over the next 5 to 10 years is going to be really interesting to see how that shakes out. If I had to guess, I think Soto is going to come out on top of those other two, and I think that's reflected in my rankings here. But boy, I don't think you can argue with any of those three. I mean, if you owned any of those three, I think you'd feel pretty damn happy about the position that you're in. So Juan Soto at number 4 for me.
Oh, I am happy about it. And yeah, the debate, it kind of started out as being Acuna versus Soto, but Tatis has joined in, and I think they're going to be compared to each other pretty much until the end of time.
Yep.
And you said we haven't seen these on base numbers since Barry Bonds, but Joey Votto had a 474 on base percentage in 2012. So he's been above 450 4 separate times. So he's the newest Joey Votto. Let's put some respect on that name.
Dare I say Joey Votto is like kind of like Freddie Freeman is the new Joey Votto, just someone who I feel like is an underrated first baseman who puts up insanely high OBP numbers.
Yeah, and won an MVP in a year ending in 0.
I never knew Joey Votto won an MVP.
2010.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, so my number 4, it's a little difficult to figure out where to put pitchers in the list relative to hitters, but this is where I decided to put Jacob deGrom, who has just, for the past 3 years, just been on another level. It has been ridiculous how good he has been. 2018, he had a 170 ERA, 199 FIP, and the 10-9 win-loss record. I thought maybe you'd give him MVP that year. He still did win Cy Young, and he won Cy Young in 2019, and he almost won in 2020. I think maybe he should have, perhaps, because especially since 2020, his Ks per 9 was 13.76. So in a lot of ways, he's still getting better. He is 32. He's older than Clayton Kershaw, I believe, which surprises me every time.
It's crazy to think.
He's 3 months younger than Clayton Kershaw, but still, it's ridiculous. And he's so good. He not only gets a lot of strikeouts, but he limits hard contact. I mean, what else is there to be said about him? 3 years ago, people were kind of having the debate of how good he can be if he's not getting wins. But that has died down, of course, because he's clearly the best pitcher in baseball right now. And yeah, he's Jacob deGrom.
Yeah, no debates there, and that's a perfect segue into my number 3 player, who is Jacob deGrom. For all the same reasons that you just said. ERAs the last 3 years. I just want to read these off: 2.38, 2.43, 1.70, and it's not like the FIP's unsupported. It's a 2.26 FIP this year, 2.67 the year before, and a 1.99 the year before that. I mean, he's just simply the best pitcher in baseball. I don't think there's any dispute. I don't think it's particularly close. I think that Cole, Bieber, and deGrom are on a tier of their own, but I think deGrom within that tier is just above the other two, and I don't think it's close, just because he's done this for so long. He's just been so consistent. He's had exactly one season where he's posted an ERA above 3.04, and that's including his rookie year. That's just nuts. He's on a different level. I mean, it's a shame the Mets don't give him more W's, but hopefully with the addition of Lindor and with Alonso coming on, Dom Smith, some of those guys, that maybe this is the year he can actually win 20 games instead of just winning like 15 is his career high in 2017. I still can't believe that. And this is including a year in 2015 where he started 30 games and the Mets made it to the World Series. He only won 14 of those 30 games. That's nuts. That's nuts. Hopefully he gets some more wins this year.
It's crazy to think of, but deGrom is going to be a Hall of Fame starting pitcher with fewer than 150 wins. I just find that really funny.
Yeah, and funny, he's winning all these Cy Young awards, and what Cy Young had like 511 wins, something like that.
Yeah. Well, not as many as Phil Koch.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, he's tremendous, and he was a guy just like Yelich, who broke out immediately after we drafted our league. His great breakout season was 2018, and I was surprised that he was still drafted towards the end of the 3rd round. I would have expected him to be. I mean, I was expecting him to be in the top 8 to 10 rounds, but 3rd round feels like the type of thing where it was probably a reach then, but obviously it turned out to be a steal.
Yeah, I mean, 2017, DeGrom had a 3.53 ERA with a 3.50 FIP. I guess you could argue, just looking at that, his strikeout rate jumped by 2 points, so that might have been something you wanted to get on at that point. But his ERAs have been going up steadily. It went from 2.54 to 3.04 to 3.53. And the FIPS have been going up. So I could see the justification for not wanting to take him in like the first 2 rounds, for example. I don't think anybody saw his 2018 coming.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, moving on to my top three, I gave my number 3 to, you guessed it, Juan Soto, my outfielder. And yeah, much like when I had to talk about Tatis, there's really not much else to say about him. He is a ridiculously good hitter. He had that Votto-esque on base percentage this year, but he also slugged 695, which is not something Votto's ever done. This was a Barry Bonds-esque season. 201 WRC plus is insane. 20% walk rate is insane. And he is younger than me. He's 2 months younger than me. 3 months younger. No, I'm burned out. He is 3 months younger than me, 3.5. And just seeing him be this good this quickly is mind-boggling.
Are you ready to make the bold prediction with Soto that I did with Tatis? He's going to be a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, sure, let's do it. Unless he gets busted for steroids like Bonds.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's not the case. Same with Tatis. I pray he doesn't get busted. But looks like you and I have the same top 2 players. I'm curious to see if we rank them in the same order.
We shall see.
My number 2 player, drum roll please, Mookie Betts, outfielder for the Dodgers. I'm not going to sit here and say that Mookie Betts had better offensive numbers this year than Juan Soto or Freddie Freeman. But, I mean, look at what Mookie did for the Dodgers. I mean, they were a team that couldn't get over the hump for the longest time. And they had some big names to try and do that. Zach Greinke, Manny Machado, you name it. Like, a lot of just big names. And this was the year that they were finally able to get over the hump. And Mookie Betts was a large reason for that. He was the heart and soul of the team. And what's funny is his offensive numbers are actually not as good as they were in previous years. He had a 366 OBP in 2020 compared to 391 and a 438 the 2 years before that. His walk rate plummeted by 4 points. His stolen bases were up a little bit. He had 10, he had 16 homers. So good for a 149 WRC plus, which was fantastic. And his defense was still pretty above average. I mean, we know he has the Gold Glove pedigree. The defensive rankings maybe weren't as high on him this year, but still very good. But there's a reason that the Dodgers gave up a lot for him and then shelled out a bunch of money for him. He is a bona fide star. I expect him to keep this up for another 4 to 5 years. I can't believe that EDO got him for the price that they did, just as a side note. And just to kind of put a comparison here to some of these other players, Mookie Betts is the second highest Fangraphs WAR over the last 3 years, and he has the 4th highest WRC plus behind Trout, Christian Yelich, and Alex Bregman. So Mookie Betts is my number 2 player, and I feel very good about that ranking.
Yep, my number 2 is, we don't have to do a drum roll, it's also Mookie Betts. He has been, over the past 3 years, maybe even 5 years, he's been the only player who has come close to being as good as the guy we both have as number 1. And he's actually been really close, especially given that really great defense in right field. He hit 16 homers in just 55 games this season, which is amazing. He played a game at second base this year, and he DH'd twice. That's odd. But anyway, yeah, nothing else to say. Mookie Betts, number 2 player in baseball.
All right, well, time for our number 1 player. No surprise here. It is another yellow champ. It's Nick Castellanos. No, it's obviously Mike Trout. But I read an article from MLB.com today that was given their most underrated team, and Nick Castellanos was the most underrated right fielder. So, but yeah,
deep fly to left field by Castellanos, and that'll make it a 4-0 ball game.
Exactly. what else do you have to say about Mike Trout? I mean, he wins all the MVPs. He's the best player in baseball. I mean, let's pull up some stats here. Between 2018 and 2020, highest OBP. Between 2018 and 2020, highest slugging percentage. During that same time frame, he has the highest WAR according to Fangraphs by 0.6, so not even particularly close. He has the highest WRC plus with a 180. The next highest is Christian Yelich with 161. I mean, look at that gap. He walks almost as much as he strikes out over that time period. He has the most home runs over that 3-year span. You want to guess who's second, Cam?
Nick Castellanos. No, I don't have a guess.
It's Eugenio Suarez, has 98. Only 3 fewer.
Yeah.
So I could sit here and list off Mike Trout stats all day. I mean, he also plays a premium position too. Let's not forget, in center field. He stuck around there for quite a bit. He's a 5-tool player. I mean, what else is there to be said? Mike Trout is clearly the best player in baseball still, with all due respect to everybody else who cracks this list. And I don't see a decline in these skills really anytime soon. I mean, I guess he's running a little less, but I don't know. He's still the best player in baseball to me. And it's not close.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly concur with that. And my number one is it's the fish man himself, Mike Trout. How can you not pick him number one? And it's amazing how many Mike Trout stats there are. And like Sam Miller is keen to point out, every time he realizes he's not super great at something, he immediately becomes a lot better at it. Like the one year where Mike Trout suddenly became good at throwing. So he's 29 now. That's crazy to me. He's about to go into his 10th full season, 11th overall. And it wouldn't surprise me if he puts up a Gold Glove season somehow. That's how good he is. Before this shortened season kind of screwed with stuff, he was on pace to be the best player of all time, according to WAR. He's already 43rd on that list. He has been a better player than Rod Carew already, and he's been better than Frank Thomas. He is 2 WAR behind Ken Griffey Jr. It's just ridiculous. It's Mike Trout. There's no limit to how good the sky's the limit for him. He's the best player of any of our lifetimes, and it's just amazing that we get to watch him. It really is.
One question I want to pose to you. I know a lot of people have been talking about how like Tom Brady has had like 2 Hall of Fame careers when you take like his 20s and his 30s, or like even 3 Hall of Fame careers, depending on how you split up the years. Do you think Mike Trout, after the age of 30, if you just took his numbers from 30 on, would be a Hall of Famer?
Well, you never really know how someone's going to age. You look at the aforementioned Ken Griffey Jr., and he really kind of struggled in his 30s. But I don't have any reason to doubt Mike Trout. He's never given me a reason to doubt him before. And yeah, why not? Let's be positive on this show.
I think a healthy Mike Trout could do it. I'm not going to sit here and predict injuries because it could happen, right? But I think a healthy Mike Trout could hypothetically do it. You know, I think until 35, 36, I can see him just slugging. And it's not like there's not a history of players just continuously slugging after that. I mean, look at Nelson Cruz right now.
Yeah, that's true. If Mike Trout can have a Ken Griffey Jr.-esque 20s and a Nelson Cruz-esque 30s, that's insane.
Let's talk about some of the players that we had a rough time leaving off here. I know that Shane Bieber was tough to leave off. I think my justification for leaving him off was while he was insanely good in 2020, and I have no reason to think that he won't keep that up. I just would like to see a bit more for him before I put him on the top 10 list. Although I do think he is the 3rd best pitcher in baseball. He would have been the next pitcher if I had to put one on this list. And I almost had him on the list. I swapped him out at the last second, actually. Other names I considered included Cody Bellinger. Fantastic in 2019, but his 2018 and 2020 weren't as good. It's like WRC pluses of like 118 and 120. There's something around that range. So not as good. I'd like to see a little bit more of him, a little more consistency before I'm ready to put him into top 10, although there's no reason with another good season from him. I don't think he could crack his top 10 list next year. And same with M-SABR. I think those were kind of like my first two out. There are a lot of other strong bats here that I, briefly thought about, but there's no way I was going to put them in. Francisco Lindor just doesn't have the offensive numbers for me to put him in, although the defense is undeniable. Trevor Story, kind of the same deal. I didn't think he was one of the best shortstops. I think that he's just a little off of that pace, although I think he's probably still a top 20 player along with Lindor. Jose Ramirez, has had the sixth most WAR from 2018 to 2020, but just the inconsistency made me not put him on this list. Alex Bregman was actually third in WAR and third in WRC plus. I just something just made me justify not putting him on. It's just a gut feeling maybe.
A stupid face.
I don't know. It's these Astros players get a little bit of an asterisk from me. I feel like he was very good in 2017 he had a 123 WRC plus. That was nice. And like 2018 and 2019 were very good, but like maybe a little less of a track record than like a Rendon. And then I think the whole Astros scandal kind of was a tiebreaker for me. And then Nelson Cruz definitely wasn't going to crack the top 10, but 6 in WRC plus over that span. Can't ignore that, but just doesn't play defense. So I had to knock him off there. But plenty of other good players that I haven't even mentioned that, definitely would be in consideration for a top 20.
Yeah, I'll go over my list. Bregman was probably my first cut. He was really just in 2018 and 2019, 157 WRC plus and 169 WRC plus, a WAR over 7.5 both times. And yeah, maybe the Astros thing kind of leaves a bad taste. But after that, Bellinger was close as well. Nelson Cruz had no chance of cracking my top 10. But the last guy I did have in my final round of cuts was Yu Darvish, one of the best pitchers, maybe the fourth best pitcher, I'd say. I don't know. But he flipped a switch at the All-Star break in 2019, and suddenly he's been one of the best pitchers in the world. And he's just striking everyone out. He has stopped walking people. He had a 1.66 walk per 9, giving him a ridiculously good 2.23 FIP this season, and I thought he was worth a shout-out.
I think you like him a little better than I do, which is fine. But yeah, he wasn't in consideration for my top 10. But yeah, I'm genuinely surprised that we each had the same top 10 players. I thought like you might have wanted to like Yelich off, or you might have maybe like you would have had Bregman and I would have had Rendon or something like that. But no, we had the exact same top 10 players. I remember when I talked to you at the beginning of the week when we first came up with this idea, you were like, I don't know how many yellow champs I'm going to be able to fit in. And I was like, I totally expect to fit in as many as I can, because I genuinely thought 4 of them deserved to be in the top 10. So interesting that we had 4 of them in the top 10 and pretty identical rankings overall. Was not expecting that.
Yeah. But yeah, it didn't make for a ton of great debate, but it was very interesting to see that we shared our top 10, and I guess we pretty much flipped Freeman and Rendon, but other than that, we had very similar lists.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what next year's list is. I can't wait to do that and revisit these rankings.
I am too. And yeah, that closes up this segment. It was a lot of fun to go through these, and be sure to leave your responses to what we did right and what we did wrong in the Slack. And we're going to take a quick break, and coming up will be Alex and Zac, co-owners of Benintendi's Chicken Tendies.
All right.
It's the jump off. I've been gone for a minute, now I'm back at the jump off. Goons in the club, case something jump off. You back up for the high, but the pump off. In the graveyard is where you get dumped off. All we want to do is party.
Okay, we are joined now by the co-owners of Benintendi's Chicken Tendies. We have Alex Fisher and Zach Rowland. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, doing good. How are you guys? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, doing pretty good. Welcome, Zach, first time on the show, and Alex, coming back after a couple times. We're excited to have both of you, and I think we really wanted to get into your draft today. You all had, I think, one of the more interesting drafts. It didn't look like it was going to be that way, but you traded Royce Lewis to get the third overall pick. And then you made a large trade with Connor to get the fourth overall pick the day of the draft. You traded Spencer Howard, Jorge Polanco, Eddie Rosario, Zayna-Max's 2021 second round pick, and Zayna-Max's 2023 second round pick to Connor for Willie Adames, Brady Singer, the fourth overall pick, in Eric's 2021 third round pick. So before we get into your actual draft picks, I just want to get your thoughts behind that trade. What made you pull the trigger? Thoughts on the players that you acquired in that deal. Just what thoughts do you all have about that?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing was, at least from my perspective, was I thought we had a shot of getting Austin Martin, just like possibility, because I know Daniel and Alex had picked two, and I know Daniel is correct me if I'm wrong, a White Sox fan, and so I thought, I mean, you never know if someone's gonna go with their own team there, and just looking more into Kim as well. I kind of thought, you know what, if we don't get Austin Martin here, we would still get someone who could possibly pan out to be a solid shortstop. I mean, Kim, if you look at his stats in the KBO, I mean, just his on base percentage and the fact that he was improving every single season. I mean, I think his first year he was striking out at around 20%, and then the last year he was down to 10%. So this guy was clearly improving his game every single year. And also looking at his swing, I don't know, it just kind of reminded me of Ryan Braun, just like a nice long swing, and he was just able to, and he just has quick hands. And then I guess too with Willie Adames, like we just felt that he was way more valuable than Jorge Polanco. So I mean, where is Polanco going to play now that Andrelton Simmons is there? And Zach brought up that point too, and I was like, oh yes, definitely, like, yeah.
Yeah, being a Twins fan, kind of being in Minnesota, it's kind of hard to give up Royce Lewis, but getting Max Meyer, another Minnesota native, I've been around here, Minneapolis, heard the hype for Max Meyer, so I'm real excited for him. I think he's got some legit stuff. So, even though we didn't get Austin Martin, I think, Max Meyer, great pick. I don't think we can go wrong with him, to be honest, knock on wood. And then, yeah, like Alex was saying with Kim, every year he's just been getting better in the Korean League. And, last year his numbers, I think he had like 19 home runs, 2019, then went up to 30 home runs. So, that's some growth you like to see. It's really encouraging stuff from him. So I think what our return on investment is, it's going to look out pretty good here in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I thought those were two very solid picks. I know just talking with Alex before the draft, he seemed pretty dead set on, taking Max Meyer somewhere in the first round. And Kim, I think, definitely has a lot of potential. I haven't heard the Ryan Braun comp before. That's actually interesting. I didn't even think about that. I don't know what you think about that, Cam, but Kim becomes anything close to Ryan Braun. I think you all got.
Whoa! I'm not comparing him to Ryan Braun. I'm just saying his swing.
Well, the swing, even then, that's still.
Hot take. Hung Sung Kim will be the next Ryan Braun.
Hopefully Kim has better infield defense than Ryan Braun. I believe he played his rookie year at third base, and it was the worst defensive season by anyone ever.
Oh, man.
Oh, jeez.
But, yeah, I agree. I've never really I never really realized Ryan Braun was a person that had that recognizable of a swing. So really cool that you're able to kind of point that out. And yeah, hopefully for your guys' sake, Kim gets the playing time and is able to showcase that.
I think the other thing too with Max Meyer was I don't know. I was just looking more into his background and his history. I mean, he played hockey throughout high school, and one of the things that frustrated me was hearing people say like, there's concern about him translating to a starting pitcher and his conditioning, and I'm like, you do realize hockey is like one of the one of the toughest sports to condition for. just the amount of stamina it takes to be able to play hockey. And also like he may have been a closer at Minnesota, but even when he was like a predominantly closer, he still was able to pitch. I think like the longest he pitched a game in a season was still 8 innings. So it's like he wasn't just like their closer. No, he was still getting like starting pitching opportunities. And of course, with the COVID season, he wasn't able to get that full season in. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know. And especially the Marlins taking him at number 3. Like you don't take a player you see as a reliever at 3. So yeah, I guess that's something I wanted to talk about too with him.
Yeah, just ace potential there, I think. And then, you know, worst comes to worst, he's probably going to be a top closer or holds guy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough I don't think we can really miss with that one. Like I said, knock on wood again. But yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that he's got a lot fewer miles on his arm than some of the Southern pitchers, such as Hancock or Lacey, is certainly a point in his favor as well.
We definitely seen a lot of those pitchers too, who, because they're part of deep pitching staffs, they pitch a lot out of the bullpen in college, and then, you know, they go to the minor leagues, they stretch out as a starter, and they end up being really successful. So there's definitely a history of that. So I think that was a great pick. Lacey and him and Hancock. It'll be interesting to kind of compare those 3 down the road and see which one ends up being the best, because I feel like those were the consensus top 3, but I didn't get the sense that there was a consensus number 1 of those 3 this year, like maybe we see in some of these other drafts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you could go wrong with either of them. It's just basically whichever one you think has the most upside. And, for us, we thought that was Max Meyer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and going back to your draft day trade, so I was trying to outbid you for that 4th pick, and I was well aware what was going on because Connor was feeding me updates. How in the loop were you guys about what I was doing? I've been curious about that.
I remember. I'm trying to remember. Oh, you messaged me. You messaged me at one point asking about it, and I was like, oh. Okay. And then I think Sahil said something too about like, oh, I've been hearing that there's a possibility that Cam's been trying to get that pick. And, I was just kind of like, okay, I mean, I'm not going to like, if it doesn't pan out, it's not going to pan out, but yeah, like once you messaged me, I was kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's okay.
Yeah. From my perspective, I was really trying to trade for that pick. Really badly. I had a deal lined up that I really liked, in which it would be very similar, except Connor would be taking Kyle Freeland from me, which I know Sahil likes, and that would make Sahil really mad, which is why I was especially inclined to force that trade through.
Kyle Freeland is awful. I need to say that.
Yeah, Connor was was about ready to accept your deal, and then I messaged you in kind of a last-ditch effort to stir the pot a little bit, but ended up not being able to top your offer.
So who are you planning on taking there then?
I was planning on taking Asa Lacey.
Okay.
Gotcha.
That's a good pick. And like we were saying, like Max Meyer, Asa Lacey, I mean, I think they're both going to be good pitchers. I just kind of felt that Max Meyer has a lower, higher floor, but then Asa Lacey probably has a higher ceiling just because of how he's already has 3 or 4 well-developed pitches versus Meyer, who only has that slider. But that slider,
that is true. Yeah, at this point, especially without the minor league season, there's not really a lot to, I guess, separate them and determine who's better than the other. So you really can't go wrong there if you're getting one of them at 3.
Yeah, definitely.
So to get the pick for Max Meyer, you all gave up Royce Lewis, and I think we normally wouldn't go back to kind of an older trade we've already discussed, but the news broke a couple of days ago that Royce Lewis tore his ACL. Apparently, he slipped on some ice during the recent snowstorm in Texas. Yeah, just
really?
a freak accident. How are you feeling about that trade right now? Or like, I'm just curious what you all kind of think of Royce Lewis's future. I know Zac, as a Twins fan, might have some, thoughts about him and just, I feel like he's been consistently ranked as like a top 10 to 20 prospect in a lot of these ranking systems. And yet you all were so willing to trade him away. And I know that's kind of sparked some controversy in the league. Some people like me were on the camp from the beginning that you made the right trade and that Royce Lewis wasn't maybe as good as advertised. And you had some people like Cam who, up until the injury, were on the Royce Lewis hype train. So just kind of curious what your thoughts are there with Royce Lewis after the injury and your decision to trade him away.
Yeah, so I mean, glad to have Max Meyer. I mean, you never want to hear someone tears their ACL, especially someone with as much potential as Royce Lewis. But, feeling a little bit better about the trade now. Yeah, like I said, as a Twins fan, Polanco's good, but they just got, I always butcher his first name, Altrayton Simmons. Is that how you pronounce it?
Angelton, yeah.
Angelton, yeah. Yeah, so Simmons will be there now, and, we'll probably cut into some of his playing time. And, Simmons is not a long-term fix by any means. Definitely older. So, definitely leaves a path for Royce Lewis. But if you look at some of his numbers, BABIP is what I really like to look at for a hitter, like some of their advanced statistics. And it's 281, which, is good, but I usually like to see a little bit more than that. I think he's got some really good stuff, but I just think that Max Meyer, like I said, ace potential. I think he could really be a stud pitcher for the Miami Marlins. So that's just kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, that's true. And especially if you kind of were expecting to maybe get Austin Martin with that second pick, that would have been an even better deal for you. But
exactly.
Either way, if you're that high on Meyer, and especially with Royce Lewis's injury, this seems to be a big win for you so far.
Well, I also think, too, with just how pitchers in this league, it seems like, a couple teams have a monopoly on all the good starting pitchers. So it seems like you all have been acquiring a lot of these younger starting pitchers this winter. And I think that's definitely a winning strategy here if you can kind of develop this next group of aces without having to pay the exorbitant prices to go get them. That actually leads to one last question I had here. You all, in the deal to get the number 4 overall pick, swapped out Spencer Howard to get Brady Singer. I know you all were very high on Spencer Howard. I think Alex has told me before that you all thought Spencer Howard could be a top 25 starter. So I'm just curious to see what you all think about Brady Singer and, if you feel like he's an upgrade over Howard or, about equal or you think Howard's better and it was just kind of necessary to get the deal done to make that swap. But for all these young players we're talking about here, like these are 2 really good young starters. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I guess the thing that I was looking at with Singer was he seemed to be a more reliable guy. Mm-hmm. I think that you're getting what you're going to get with him. He's going to be a moderate to high ground ball pitcher in a hitter friendly division with that. And I mean, the NL East has been more competitive. And I mean, like again, I mean, you really hope the best for these players, but that shoulder injury that Spencer Howard had, and just the fact of he was losing his velocity pitching deeper into games, you're just kind of like, dude, I don't know the exact age, but I mean, dude, you're in your early 20s. Like, why is this happening already? So that was really concerning. Like, and obviously we gave up a lot for him, and that was a botch trade. Not gonna lie, trade Mookie. But if Spencer Howard was able to be the starting pitcher that he was being hyped up, I'm not saying he will not be, but at least I was expecting him to be a 2, coming out of the gate, just being able to perform well. And like I said, I don't know, it's just his arm strength. That's just a really big warning sign.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I'm really high on Brady Singer. I know that I was spending a good chunk of this offseason trying to get him from Connor. I thought he'd be a great player to round out my rotation. So I think he's a great piece for your rotation as well. And a nice young rotation you're building here, with Mize and Brady Singer, Framber Valdez. I'm sure there's at least a name or two I'm forgetting. I know you also have Scherzer and
Logan Gilbert.
Yeah, Logan Gilbert. A lot of good names here, so that's definitely exciting. Any other questions, Cam? I think that's all I had.
Yeah, that's all I had as well. I just wanted to thank you both for coming on. It was a real pleasure. And Zach, I'll see you in the hockey finals.
Hell yeah.
Fishing for fishies,